Do you get all confused and wired for sound whenever you're trying to pick out wire to make a wire wrapping project? Hi, my name is Jimmy, and this morning I want to show you the basics of choosing wire for a wire wrapping project. When you look at the catalogs and myriad of online advertising for different types of wire, it can be overwhelming. But there are only three basic types of wire that most folks are going to use as a beginning wire wrapper. We can use round wire, and what that means is if you were to cut across this with a pair of wire cutters, the profile of the wire is actually circular. The next one is half round, and again, if you were to cut across the profile, you'll notice that there's actually a flat spot and then a hemispherical shape on that wire. So that's half round. And the third is square wire. If you were to cut across this, you see the actual square profile. Look at the wire, you're also going to be noticing that you can get dead soft and half hard and full hard wire. And let's just dispose of that third option that I gave to you, the full hard wire. That is so very hard, it's like as stiff and as hard as what you might find with a needle or a straight pin. Very difficult for us to work with, so we primarily work with dead soft and half hard wire. And let me show you the way to simply tell the difference between the two. So if you were to hold this and just try and move 1.5 to 2 inches maybe, you'll notice that it bends fairly easily because it's totally softened wire. Compare that then with the same gauge of square wire that is half hard. When I move this, it has a lot of memory and it wants to go back to its original position. So there are only two basic types of hardness that we're going to be dealing with for the most part in wire wrapping, and that's dead soft and half hard. And finally, let me say that there are some specialty types of wire. For example, half round wire, what you can look at and find sometimes is double half round, and again that profile is just two pieces of wire. If you look very closely at this, you can see that you have two hemispherical shapes right next to one another. Another popular one is beaded wire, which makes it look like you've actually formed little beads of wire linearly all along its length. And still another one that some folks will try and use is sparkle wire. And it just has that sparkly effect. It feels almost like grains of sand that's been glued onto the wire, but it's actually permanent. And it's really pretty, catches the light, and gives the viewer a lot of interest in your projects. Again though, we're just looking at three basic shapes or profiles of wire. We have round, half round, and square wire that we're going to be looking at. And when you start to order, think of dead soft and half hard wire. And just as a summary for you, I might also mention that if you're just beginning to wrap, you might want to consider staying with a smaller range of wires, for example 18 gauge up to maybe 24 gauge. So when you look online and you see that folks are making projects out of such and such a gauge of a certain profile of wire, try to keep it within those confines. If you make it too thick or too narrow, too thin, then it's going to be a little more difficult perhaps to finish that project. But don't get all wired up. Just keep on wrapping wire. Bye-bye.